Hello, you are most welcome. Yeah, it's Henry, the computer guy, and in today's video, we are going to be working out UNEB Subsidiary ICT 2013 Paper 2, but our main focus is going to be on Microsoft Publisher. But before we do this practically, we are going to be creating a folder onto our desktop where our file is going to be saved. And how are we doing this? We are going to locate any free space onto our desktop, right-click onto our mouse, come to the option that says new, then we select our folder. And because we are going to be working on UNEB 2013 paper 2, we are going to be giving it that same name, which is UNEB 2013 paper 2. So I can drag this folder to any location of my choice. And having created that folder, we are going to be passing through the question that we are going to be using in the session. And I've already created that question, so I'm just going to click on it, then it will open for me. And having opened, the question is telling us that using any desktop publishing software, design a certificate of excellence for Chiriamembo Senior Secondary, and this certificate is going to be awarded to senior sixes for having excelled in the following packages. For example, MS Word, MS Excel, MS PowerPoint, MS Access, and lastly, MS Publisher. So the question is further telling us to put spaces for the signature of the head teacher and the head of ICT department, and that carries 10 marks. Then down here, they are telling us that we are going to be adjusting the paper size to a width of 11 inches and a height of 8.5 inches. So before we do this, let's first of all open our file and see how we can begin with that. So without wasting any time, let's dive into the real practice and see how this is done. So what I'm going to do is to load my Microsoft Publisher by clicking onto it because I've already pinned it onto my taskbar. So I'll come and click on it. And having clicked on it, it will display for me this page, which is saying getting started with Microsoft Office Publisher 2007. Remember, we are going to be working with a blank page, so I'm going to be selecting the blank page. Having selected it, of course, they are going to give me a variety of the different pages I can work with. But for my case, I'm going to be working with A4 landscape. Having clicked on it, of course, this side, there is also the customization pane we can work with, for example, by changing the color scheme, changing the font scheme, and adding in some business information. But for my case, I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to click on the option that says create. Having clicked on create, they are going to give me my blank page that I'm going to be working with. But remember, the question was telling us that we should use 11 inches by 8.5. But when you look at the page here, it is having 29.7 centimeters by 21 centimeters. We have to adjust the size of the page first of all by clicking onto this option, change page size. So having clicked on that option, we are going to be coming to the side here where we have the page, the width and the height. But when we look here, we are having centimeters, yet the question is asking for inches. What we have to do first is to change the units to the exact units that the question is talking about, which is inches. Let me cancel this one first of all and change the units to what the question wants. How are we going to do this? We're going to be coming to the option that says tools. Then we pick options, then we can as well be able to change the measurements to the desired units that we want to work with. For example, the question is talking about inches, so I'm going to be selecting inches. Then I'll come and say, okay. Having selected that, we can now change our page size to the way the question is telling us. So come back and say change page size. And having clicked on that, we are again coming back to this side where we have our page. Then we put our 11 as the inches. They have told us as the width. Then down here, we're going to be putting there as 8.5 as the height. Then later we can say, okay. So we have adjusted the first question that the question is telling us that we adjust to 11 inches by 8.5 inches. But remember, we have to save our publication. So let's go back and save our publication. Then we can continue with designing our publication. So what we are going to do first here is to click on the option that says File, then click on the option that says Save. And having clicked on Save, we have to look for our folder that is located onto our desktop. So I'm going to be selecting my desktop. And having selected desktop, I'll have to look for UNEB. For example, I'll type U, then they will take me where I can get folders that are beginning with the names U. Then I can click on it, then open it. Having opened it, I'll have to give it a name. For example, I'm going to be calling it, let's say I wrap this publication, I put a name of my choice. I'm going to be calling it Certificate of, let's say, Excellence, just like that. Then I'll say save. So my file has been saved into my folder. We can as well prove and see by minimizing this. Come to our folder, right click, open it, then we'll look and see whether the certificate is already there. Of course, it is here. So we can now begin our designing. But remember, the question is talking about Chiriamenvo. That is going to be our heading as Chiriamenvo Secondary School. That is what we're going to use as our heading. Let me come back to our question and copy that name because I'm going to be using it. Copy. Then I can go back to my publication. Then I can first of all use the word art because it is going to be making our certificate attractive. For example, I'm going to come and click on the option that says insert word art. Having clicked on it, they're going to give you the word art gallery and you choose the type of word art that you want to work with. For example, I'm going to work with this one, so I'll click on it and say OK. Having said OK, I'm going to be pasting the word or the title or the heading that I've copied from my work. So I can make it a little bit bold. I can decide to change the size. I can decide to change the font depending on exactly how I want my items to be. So I can now click OK. And having clicked OK, this is what we are having. I can decide to enlarge it a little, then put it where I feel I want. Now, when you look at our page here, we have what we call the layout guides. We can decide to push them at the edges of the page. How are we doing that? We are going to come to the option that says Arrange, then come to Layout Guides. Having clicked that, we are going to be putting it aside, then we modify the sizes. For example, when I decide to reduce this to, let's say, put it at the 0, then I can put this at 0 also. I can put this at 0 also. Then I can put this at 0 also. Then I can say OK. So it has been pushed to the edges of the page. So I can decide to put this here. Just like that, I can decide to push this one a little bit to the left, then I can balance my page. So having done that, I might be in need of putting, let's say, the motto, let's say the PO box, the email, and others. Let me try putting that. But whenever you want to write onto your blank page, you need a text box. So I'm going to come and insert a text box. Click on a text box. Come and drag it to exactly where you want to write your information. For example, that's where I am. But you're saying that my cursor is at the top here, but I want to write here. So I'm going to be pressing enter up to where I feel I want to write. I can even decide to change the color of my words. For example, I can put this one to 15. For example, 15, then I press enter. Then I decide to put it in the center, it will come here. Let me say motto. Then I'm going to be putting it in capital letters. Motto. Then I can decide to put some space there. Then I can write the motto, which is no pain, no pain, no gain. So that is my motto for Chiriamenvo Senior Secondary. Then I can decide to go to the next line and put, let's say, the box number P or let's say box, let's say 5252. I'm just guessing 5252. Then I can say Kampala. You can also decide to use any that you want to use. Then I can say Uganda. Then I can even decide to put a telephone number. Let's say 07013341, let's say 70. Then I can decide to go to the next line. I write the email. Let's say I can put that as my email, which is chiriass@gmail.com. So this is it. So I can decide to change the sizes of this. Let's say I want to make this a little bit bold. Let me highlight all of them and make them bold. So click on bold. Then I can decide to give this one a color. For example, I want to put a blue color for this one. Then I want to leave this one to black. I can decide to put this one to a blue color, just like that. So that is what we are having. Then I'm going to reduce my text box close to the email that I've written down there. So that is what we are having for a moment. Now, let's go back to the question and see what they are telling us to do. So we have put this, then we are going to be inserting clip art to represent the owner as photograph. Let me come and first of all copy any image and put it there. Because it is going to be for computer, I need to put some computers there. For example, I already downloaded an image onto my desktop. So let me copy it by pressing Ctrl C, then come back to my publication. Then I say Ctrl V. So I can put this in any location of my choice. Let's say I'm going to be putting it here. Then I can decide to have it as that. Let me make it a little bit smaller for it to fit. That is what I'm having. Then I can also get a clip art to represent the photograph of the owner. So I'm going to come to insert, then I say picture, then I look for clip art. Then I will type here exactly what I want. For example, I want people. I can come and say people, then press enter. Then I can look through the clip arts that I'm having to select the one that I'm going to be using. Let's say I'm going to be using this. So I'll click on it. Then I can as well decide to resize it to any size of my choice. Then I put it here just like that. So that is what we are having for a moment. Let's look through and see what they are telling us. Because it is going to be a certificate of excellence, we need to put certificate of excellence onto our certificate. Let's get another text box. By dragging it below here, then we write some words there. For example, I can decide to change the size of that one to 50 for it to be a little bit bigger. Then I can as well decide to change the font to Bordeaux, Bordeaux empty, black. For example, now I can start typing certificate of, let's say, excellence. Then I can decide to put it in the center. I can decide to highlight it and give it some color by coming to the font color. I can go to more colors. I can decide to choose from here. I can decide to go to the custom colors. I can decide to go to the Pantone. Then I can decide to pick a color of my choice that I really want to work with. Then I can say, okay, so the color has automatically changed. So I can come and drag this one a little bit up to see that I can balance my my page. So that is what I'm having for now. So down here, I'm going to be putting, let's say, certificate of what? Of excellence. I can decide to push this one a little bit down, just like that. I push this one a little bit down, then this one a little bit down, then this one a little bit down. That is what I'm having for now. So what I'm going to do is to put another text box. By coming here, click on text box, then drag it down here. So I'll write certificate of excellence. Then I say this is to certify, but I can decide to change the size for this one to either, let's say 39, press enter. Then I can say this is to certify that. Remember, the question was telling us to use the name, my name as the person who is going to be receiving that certificate. So I can decide to put this in the center. Then I can make this one a little bit small. I add another text box. I put my name as the person who is going to be receiving the certificate. Let's say I can as well decide to put the size of 27. Let's say I can leave it to Times New Roman. I put it in the center. Let's say I want to put, let's say, Sechito, let's say Henry as that. So I can decide to make this one a little bit smaller. That is just like that. I can decide to make this bold. I can decide to put a color, which is a blue color, just like that. So this is to certify that Henry Sechito has, let's say, excelled in the following applications. So now we're going to be putting all those words there. After putting this, I'm going to be putting another text box. By coming to text box, then drag it down here, just like that. So we are going to be putting, let's say, has excelled. We can change our size to, let's say, 32 for it to be visible, 32. Then I can also decide to change the font to comic. Let's say comic, let's say sans to that. Then I can decide to say has, let's say, excelled in the following, applications. Then I can decide to put this in the center and just like that. Sechito Henry has excelled in the following applications. I can put this. We can decide to even put the year, let's say from 2021 to 2023 to from 2020 like that. So you can decide to put any years that you feel you want. Then down here we have to put the signatories. We also have to put the applications that we are going to be working with. Remember they gave those applications in the question, so we are going to be copying them from our question. So I need another text box down here. Let me drag it and drop it here. Because I'm going to be putting the applications here, I can come and say I'm going to be changing the size because it is very small. Let's say, for example, I'm going to be giving this one 20, which is going to be times New Roman, then 20. So I can decide to put, for example, Microsoft Word. Then I can say enter Microsoft Excel. I can put Microsoft Access. I can put Microsoft PowerPoint. So we are remaining with only one, which is Microsoft Publisher. Microsoft Publisher. So what we are going to do is to highlight them, make them a little bit bold. Then we can decide to give them some color. Let's say this is the color, which is blue. And we can decide to put anything that we feel we want to work with. For example, I can even decide to put some numbering or bullets, just like that. So that is what we are having for now. So I can push this text box close here. Then we put the signatories to this certificate. For example, let me get another text box. I'll come and drag it here. I'll come and drag it here. Then I'm going to be putting the information I need to use there for the head teacher. So I can say to press enter. Then I can put a line or some dots where someone is going to be typing. Then I can decide to even make them bold for them to be visible. Control B. Then I can decide to come below this line. I write there, for example, let's say Mr. Let's say Chigonya, Mr. Chigonya Po. Then I can decide to put that in the center. Who is going to be, I can press enter, who is going to be the head teacher. Is going to be the head teacher. I can decide to highlight this. I can increase the size to 16 for it to be a little bit visible. I can decide to push this one a little bit up, just like that. Then I can make these ones red. By coming to this option, then I can say I want to use that. So that is what we are going to be having. Then I also need to put this one on this side. So I'm going to be copying the same text box, Control C. Then I say Control V. I put it onto the other side where the ICT teacher is going to be. For example, I need it here, just like that. This is going to be the head of ICT, which is, let's say, computer guy. Just call it computer guy. Then down here, I can say ICT department. Then I can just have that. So we have now designed our certificate the way we want it. So we can decide to even put what we call the border here. For example, I can decide to get a text box, then drag it from the edges of our page. to the edges of the last page down here. Then after that, we come to borders. Then we decide to come to more lines. Then we use our border art. Then we can decide to choose any border art from the list here. For example, we can use the zigzagger. Then we can even decide to give it some color if at all we want. So that is what we have. By putting the color, we can decide to put the color. For example, if you wanted it at screen, you can go to more colors. You can as well decide to put a color of your choice. That is the color we are having. We can even change the weight such that it is a little bit visible, or we can leave it to 13. Then we say, okay, so that is what we have as our certificate. So let's look at the question and see whether we've answered what the question really wanted. So they're telling us that use your name as a footer. Sorry, use your own name as the footer of the certificate. So we need to put a footer onto our certificate. We come back here. So whenever you want to add a footer, we're going to come to the option that says view, then come to header and footer. So click on it. And having clicked on it, of course, the header is always at the top. Then the question wanted a footer. So we can use here as the footer down as Henry, the computer guy. Henry, the computer guy as our footer. If they at all asked the header, then you would come and put the header at the top. Then you click aside, just double click aside, then it will open for you. You can zoom in and zoom out depending on how you want to view your certificate. So that is our certificate. You can come back to the question and see whether we are done. They're telling us that use your name and personal number in the footer. So if you have your personal number, you can use it there. Then use your name as the owner. We used that one already. We inserted the clip art. Then we already saved our certificate or our publication. So it is just very easy for you to create a certificate in Microsoft Publisher. You can zoom in and zoom out depending on how you want to view your certificate. Bye-bye. I sign out.